All right, it's time for Prairie Wife in Heels. I guess we've already kind of been down this road a little bit about a half an hour ago.
I know, I busted in early today.
That's great. You're always welcome, my dear. Cathy Holman, Prairie Wife in Heels. And, as we've been talking about this morning, kind of what we're talking about today is, what do I want to be when I grow up? And this came from, we have a mutual acquaintance that we had talked about before, someone who was in a job and left the job not of her own accord. Right. And we were having discussions and saying, what is it that you want to do? And she said, well, I'm really good at this and I'm really good at that. And the other, I said, yeah, but what is it that you want to do? What have you always wanted to do? Whether or not you've been thrown into this because you wanted to be thrown into it, So within that search, now she's in a position doing teaching, which is something she always wanted to do, So the thing is, what is it, between 12 and 15 jobs that a person has usually?
Yeah, 12 to 15 jobs. I'm a nerd, so I like to do research.
You're more than welcome to it.
And so I went to LinkedIn, and the average person will have 12 to 15 jobs in their lifetime. And I was sitting there pondering this with my husband going, what? No, but if you count those high school jobs, those jobs in your 20s before you really settle down for a career, it's pretty easy to get up to that number. But the question is, are you fulfilled in those jobs?
Right, exactly. And so we've been having this discussion in the studio this morning. What was it you wanted to be, and I know for myself, I started out wanting to be a veterinarian. That's what I wanted to be. But because, and I've told this story before, I think, Raj, that, my high school teachers said, no, you stink at math and science, and so you can't be one. And so I was like, oh, okay.
No pressure, teachers out there. No pressure.
So, don't tell your student that. So I was like, okay, I'll be an actress, and now, and I turned into a journalist. And so you don't always end up where you start. But the question, as you said, is, are you fulfilled where you are?
And is it ever too late to change?
Exactly.
I'm going to say no on that one. First, I want to know, though, Roger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I wanted to be a baseball pitcher until I went to spring training at the University of Houston, and they could hit everything I could throw. So I realized the Astros weren't going to call, and then I became a drama major with Dennis and Randy Quaid and Robert Wall and some other folks who went on to do well. But I realized I was kind of too. I didn't have what it took to go hat in hand and continually audition for work. And I started doing radio in the meantime. So when we all left college, I was working. And I just sort of fell into this. So you never know.
And do you love it? Are you fulfilled?
Yeah.
Or are we going to see you, walking a tightrope here in 5 years?
Look, if Quaid wants to call and offer me a little part, that's fine. I would take a little vacation time.
According to Oprah, you put it out there, it's going to happen. So there you go.
Well, I have a picture of Oprah on my website too. But I love it. I've been doing this 48 years now. So,
Frank, what about you? Where did you start?
I wanted to be an ice cream taster.
Genius.
An ice cream taster?
Yeah.
Genius.
Okay.
Ice cream taster. Then I liked sports a lot, so I wanted to find a job where I could get in for free, which I did.
Nailed it.
So,
and here you are.
I probably should have gotten out of this more than a few years ago, but now I'm to the point where you can't leave because I'm 55 years old. Who's going to hire me now?
Oh, wait.
That's exactly the question, right?
That is what we were talking about.
What I've researched is that I'm screwed.
I don't like that attitude.
Okay. If you've decided
I am going to bust in here as my typical Susie Sunshine. According to thebalance.com, that changing careers becomes increasingly more difficult, but not impossible. As we get older, you have more responsibilities, but it's never too late to act, but make sure you don't react, which I thought was fascinating because a lot of us, we get put to that point of being fed up, and that's what causes change. And they said you need to act based on your passion and what you want the rest of your life to look like, as opposed to react to something negative. And then, Frank, the last thing, just go. Just do it.
Well, I did TV for a long time, and I can tell you right now, at my age, forget about it. They don't want you. You're
Well,
too
in
old.
TV, yeah.
You're too old. You make too much money. They want younger folks.
Hey, you know what?
So
They're
that's
probably looking for ice cream tasters still out there. It's not too late.
Frankie, we were both racing our hairlines to the end of our TV careers. So,
But the question is,
And there's a lot of ice cream out there.
is do you always need to search for a job at what you're good at, or is it a matter of looking for something that's going to fulfill you? Exactly, which is what our conversation has been. You know, and sometimes you have to be drugged, kicking and screaming, or thrown out in the street before you can get kind of that bubble of silence around you that makes you go, okay, well, I have no choice. I have to look for something else. What is it that I really want to do?
Well, and I think you can't be afraid to change. So for me, growing up, I always wanted to be a mother with tons of children. So got that covered. And then a teacher, because being a teacher was the closest thing. So I got my degree, worked my way through college at various jobs, and then became a teacher. Absolutely loved it. But there came a point when I was pregnant with my second child where I said, you know what? I love it, and I'm good at it, but this isn't where I want to be. I want to be home with my kids. So we made it happen thanks to my husband who supported me. And I think it's important to do those checks every once in a while. Where am I? Where do I want to be? I don't know. Maybe, like I said, I am kind of Miss Susie Sunshine, but I hate to hear that people aren't feeling fulfilled. And fine, if your job isn't doing it, you have responsibilities. What can you do outside of your work to give you that fulfillment? Was Susan mentioned earlier about that sense of wonderment. She was chatting about that when you guys were talking about Easter eggs. How can you find that fulfillment if it's not in your job? If you're not what you want to be when you grow up, what can you do?
Well, and it is very hard because as we get older too, and we do have responsibilities, you got to pay the bills, and you got your kids, and you got to keep them fed, and you've got to pay the mortgage, and you've got, you know, debt or toys or whatever it is, you know, it just keeps rolling and rolling. So you feel trapped, you know, but how do we look at that? How do we step outside of that and look to see if there is some sort of other opportunity to, you know, I mean, I guess I could look now and go, you know, I guess I could be a veterinarian still. By the time I get out of school, I'd be retirement age, maybe. You know,
you could work at the Humane Society and volunteer,
you know, or just to say, you know, I maybe just because I'm good at this, I shouldn't be doing it. What is it giving me? I'm trying not to be specific to this job, you know, but those questions we ask are, how do we get a kick in the butt?
This is where we need call-ins. This is where we
yeah, we'll get there at some point. Yeah.
So we did a poll though on Facebook, and one of my friends said that after 11 years from bouncing, after 11 years of bouncing from job to job, trying to find her passion, she chose to drop everything and go back to school, and it was the best decision she'd ever made. So I think people just need to get over the fear. There's an author and speaker out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Her name is Ann Fish, and she talks about taking risk, but doing it in the right way. So any of you that are listening to this, that is a resource I would definitely recommend. She's pretty phenomenal, but I think just don't be afraid. I want to have a positive message out there. If you aren't what you want to be when you grow up, not too late.
Hey, Cathy, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm on your Facebook page.
Sure.
You have a lot of Degas paintings.
Oh, my gosh.
Mainly dancers. So did you want to be either a dancer or an artist?
So I would have loved to be a ballerina. I would have loved to do that growing up, but my parents just didn't have the money to send me. It didn't work as the youngest of 4 kids, so I love ballet. The painting, I just have an affinity for French Impressionists, Marie Cassatt and Degas, and I support the arts by purchasing paintings from local artists, so that is one way, and my daughter's in ballet. She's been taking ballet for 7 years now, and I am not living my dream through her.
No, but I'm here to tell you, if you want to get into some adult ballet classes.
Oh, I would love to if I had time. Oh, yes, I've looked into it, but I just don't have time with the kids. But
girl, make time.
I would do. Look at you. You're right. You're right. So,
see, I get this from hanging
Dan,
out with
if you're listening, you're going to have to babysit a little longer.
Well, there you go.
Mama can go to ballet.
You're the lady who told me you take a specific time every week.
I do.
Where you make time for yourself.
I do. I go snowshoeing and I do skiing, which I just started this year. I never thought I could do those things, and I just went up with a girlfriend who encouraged me, and there I am on Casper Mountain breaking poles. And
so you can take that same time right?
That is true. And start doing
and
ballet.
start doing a ballet
Look at you,
class.
Roger, throwing me under the bus.
I
there.
know.
See,
I looked at that and I thought, I see a secret passion here.
It is
Yeah.
true. I do love ballet, and that's something I miss not being in Milwaukee, is being able to go to the ballet and having the art museum as well to go to. So I was in Denver for oncologist appointments and things like that, and Degas was there, and I just took an hour and a half to be a grown-up and a nerd and just immersed myself in it.
There you are.
well, and I have my friend Greg, who I went to high school with. He said, "Yeah, I've always dreamed of being successful when I was young and adventurous." And he spent a lot of time managing garages. And then he decided to go to night school at the age of 43. At 45, he got a degree in criminal justice and became a police officer. And was awarded Officer of the Year and went and did that for quite a while until he decided he wanted to own his own garage, and then went back to that. So he's been following his passion a number of different places
Well, and
around there.
something-
So,
Sorry.
you're not too old. No, that's okay. 43 or 45, he's like, you know what? I want to be a police officer. And, he was in good shape. He could pass all the tests and everything else. And there you go.
Well, and something I want to add too is my mom didn't finish college because she chose to go, she was in nursing school and she chose to go the family route. And I remember when I was 11 years old, her going back to college and getting her degree. And that has always stood out to me. That's one of those memories from my childhood of seeing my mom go and do that for herself. And what an example, right? It's not too late to change and do what you want to do. So
Cathy, how do we sit back and start to examine this? I mean, we tend to get in our rut. We tend to get in we've got, like Roger and I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have to be here. And then I got to do this. I got to post this. Then I got to post this.
I do
and
not
I got to do
envy
the news
you.
story. And oh my gosh, we got to check. And
Do
it's,
what you have to do.
It's
Yeah.
it's 7:30 at night. And Ian sent us an email about something going on.
Oh,
and,
that Ian.
And so we tend to get on, the wheels are just rolling. How do we get to where we can sit back and examine whether or not,
You're happy.
this is whether or not we're happy with it?
Yeah. Well, I know my husband and I, this may sound silly, but every 3 years or so, we sit down and we take a look at our family, where he is with work and his goals, where I am, where our kids are, and where we want to be. And we just kind of feel things out. So actually, I just had my last day. I was senior producer for a radio show at a Greeley 2 years ago, besides doing the blog and staying home with my kids. And I just had my last day yesterday because I said, you know what? I want to focus on the blog. I want to do that thing. I want to spread that message of support, grit and grace out there with people. And
for you, girl.
so luckily my husband was like, do it. I will support you. And he is at home now with 2 children with strep and 1 vomiting so that I can be here with you guys. So
Support is an important
so I
thing.
think check in, right? And if you set a regular check-in, I don't know. I just think that's so important. Just sit down. Just sit down and do it, and don't be afraid to take those risks.
Sounds like you checked out of the house at the right time, though.
Yeah.
To be
I can't
honest,
lie. I can't. That's why I was here half an hour early.
Well, I think you got to hang out with me for a little bit longer too, before you go home. To the play.
Sweetheart, I'll be back at noon at nap time.
Okay. Very good. Cathy Holman, Prairie Wife in Heels. We're going to be doing this every Friday at 9:15, except next Friday because it's Good Friday and we don't have a show then. So we'll be back 2 weeks from now. So thank you so much for coming in. As always, this is a blast. We're going to have to tell the bosses, hey, Ian, that, we need like a half hour or an hour to go through this
Well,
stuff.
thank you, and thanks to all the listeners at K2 Radio and Roger and Frank for putting up with me today.
Okay.
Hey.